go. What is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Happy Monday, I guess, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. And I mean, okay, Dynasty rookie drafts kicking off. We seeing a lot of Dynasty startups going. So we're talking keeper trade, player values. And it's interesting because, you know, I'm not necessarily the one to always say analytics before film. I'm a film before analytics through and through, and I'm going to continue down that path. But there is some interesting arguments to be had when we're talking about player values when it comes to trading these players. I'm always going to sit here and tell you that team dynamic and situation should trump that all the time, especially when it comes to age and everything that's going down with these players. However, there is some calculators out there that do pose, you know, a good topic of conversation when we discuss what these players' values currently are in fantasy football, and it's very interesting to me. So let's start off with Joey B and Jordan Love. First one on my board, and it's a very interesting situation when we come to trade value. Okay, at this point, the calculator is suggesting that Joey B over 7,300, where Jordan Love is at 5,900 in terms of analytical value. It's okay. So Joey B's almost got 1,500 points on the value train right now ahead of a Jordan Love. Age very similar, 2 years apart. I mean, 27 and 25 years of age, respectively. But we understand Joey B coming off the injury last season. A lot of people suggesting that that wrist and that thumb may never be the same. What could it impact his play on the field? Absolutely, and that is a big concern for me. I mean, is it, you know, they're just putting it out there as semantics to suggest he's not going to be the same guy? What other reason could you suggest that otherwise? I mean, being a big problem for me, Joey B, with that injury, it is on his throwing arm, so I mean, it is a big issue for me. Quarterback 25 last year as he dealt with that injury, shut him down, where a Jordan Love was picking up steam. You got to feel the love for Love, because he is that good. I was a huge supporter of him last year, and I'm going to continue down that path, even though the value sitting here saying not as high as a Joey B right now. So if you're looking to ship one of these individuals out or trade for one of these individuals, I'm sitting here saying trade a Joey B, not only based on the values, but based on circumstance. Okay, T. Higgins may be out the door sooner rather than later as well. They don't really necessarily have a great run game now without Joe Mixon. It's Zach Moss and Chase Brown at this point. So I mean, could they, you know, mimic what a Joe Mixon did together? Sure, but I mean, there's going to be growing pains where the Green Bay Packers look youthful, they look ready, and I mean, Jordan Love absolutely lit it up last year, so I'm keeping a Jordan Love, and I'm trading a Joey B at this point. Next one, Justin Herbert versus Trevor Lawrence. Okay, value's very close. It's a little bit further than I would have anticipated, you know, Trevor Lawrence's value on the calculators to be at this point. Basically, 1,486 points less than a Justin Herbert, even though we see, you know, the transition in this LA Chargers team, especially with a Harbaugh, now the head coach, shipping out all the wide receivers that they had, even in Austin Eckler, shipping him out the door, and trying to revamp this offensive system where we do see Trevor Lawrence. They added a Gabe Davis. They lost a Calvin Ridley. They still got Etienne. They got Evan Ingram. And I mean, they added that young rookie, Brian Thomas Jr., add to Christian Kirk. You still got Parker Washington. So, I mean, there is weapons in Jacksonville to get you all warm and fuzzy to suggest that, you know, Trevor Lawrence's ascension will continue, where we could see a Justin Herbert on the decline. I am looking at this in a different perspective because I think Justin Herbert has already proven he is the cream of the crop in this league. He can be one of the top quarterbacks in this league as well. Trevor Lawrence kind of, you know, we're saying, yeah, he's had some great games, but is he that guy that everybody had, you know, hoped and pegged, the generational top pick in the NFL draft? Hasn't necessarily panned out that way just yet. Quarterback 13 for Trevor Lawrence last year, where Herbert dealt with a big, you know, heaping of injuries. The offensive line was a problem. I think, you know, they do rebound. They got Lad McConkey, my guy, and I mean, okay, you still got Quentin Johnston. Hopefully he pans out, and then a Josh Palmer. So you got a respectable, not a great, you know, proven wide receiver room. Losing Keenan Allen's going to be huge. Losing Austin Eckler is big. So we will see the transition and see how these Chargers do move forward, where Trevor Lawrence still has weapons to contend with, age only 2 years apart. I'm keeping a Justin Herbert. You know, value trend aside at this point, I will ship out a Trevor Lawrence, even though it is almost 1,500 points on the difference, knowing you could get more out of a Justin Herbert at this point. I'm keeping Justin Herbert. I think the value is just going to continue to increase, where a Trevor Lawrence, we got to still wait and see a little bit. I think there is still some growing pains that could be had, and we'll see how he does mesh with his new wide receiver core. Running back time, we got CMC taking on a Breece Hall, and it is a lot closer than these quarterbacks' value charts are at this point. only 244 points in difference of points between a Breece Hall to a CMC. Age is the biggest gap here that we have. Age 27 for CMC and 22 for Breece Hall. And I'm telling you, okay, even though CMC finished as the running back one last year, likely will give you at least 3 more top 5 finishes before his career is out. I mean, the age 30, that's the biggest problem. So now a lot of people saying, what do I do with Christian McCaffrey as we enter this season? His value is at supreme high levels because he still will be able to give you top 5 finishes at least for the next 3 years. You got to believe it. If not, challenge again for top 3 this season. 357 points last year. CMC was a bat out of hell, no question. But we're talking about a Breece Hall where I'm extremely bullish on this potential right now. Aaron Rodgers coming back to the fold. Hopefully he can stay healthy for an entire season, and we will see what Breece Hall absolutely is, which is going to be one of the best running backs in the entire NFL, without question. He was a running back for 252 points last season in that meek Jets offense with the rotating door of quarterbacks. Breece Hall should see massive amount of workload with an Aaron Rodgers this year. He came back unscathed from that ACL. Like I've said in previous shows, I am all in keeping a Breece Hall and trading Christian McCaffrey right now. You will not likely get the better value for CMC than you do have in this offseason. So if you want to recoup picks, if you're rebuilding your team, or if you just want to revamp and get players and picks back, CMC is definitely the trade I'm looking for, even though you're going to be hurting because he's going to lose you the 300-plus points he'll likely give you once again this season. But, I mean, at this point, at 27 years of age, his value is supremely high, and I would definitely consider trading CMC over a Breece Hall at this point. Rachaad White or James Cook on next on my board. Very interesting because they are very close in every category we see. Running back 7 to running back 11. Only separated by, 25 points this past season. Their age is very similar, and their trade value on the calculator charts right now is extremely similar. Only plus 11 going to a Rachaad White. So the examples you got right now is who's the better back. And I'm going to make the case, not because I'm a Bills fan, but because of electric playmaking ability. I like myself James Cook. Even though we did see Rachaad White take over as the season did go on, because the Bucs finally realized, get White in space and he will make plays. And that is the biggest positive of a Rachaad White in this offense. You get him in space. It was even going back into college. In open space, Rachaad White is very difficult to bring down, and he will make plays for you. But James Cook proved to everybody last year, everything I was saying, he is a 3-down back. He can be trusted as such, and he will make a lot of plays. The only issue that we did see out of James Cook is the touchdown upside, which may continue this season as the Bills added somebody like a Ray Davis. Still got Ty Johnson. You got a Frank Gore Jr. on the roster now as well. So, I mean, touches in the red zone may be not, substantial for a James Cook, even throughout his entire career. But, I mean, dropping those passes. So, here's the thing. A lot of people aren't really a big fan of James Cook and his receiving ability. This is an anomaly that would happen last year with the drop passes where he could have, aided in adding to his fantasy point totals with those drops in the end zone, in the red zone, where he could have had easy walk-in touchdowns. This is not what James Cook does. His hands are very good. Maybe he's just looking to turn up and, make a play before he has the ball in his hands. You will go back to his UGA film. He had very solid, sure hands and receiving capabilities. I am not worried about James Cook hands whatsoever, where Rachaad White did uplift all of his fantasy productivity with the PPR upside this past season, and there isn't a lot in the cupboards outside of a Bucky Irving rookie at this point who could steal a lot of touches from him this year. So at this point, I mean, even with the value where we're at, the Bills are kind of in transition in the offense as well with no more Stephon Diggs. I'm keeping a James Cook, and I'm trading away Rachaad White. Yes, the values aren't on the top end, but I don't know if you're going to get back to the value that you can return for a White at this point. Maybe he has another very, similar type of season this year, but I like James Cook and what he's doing in this Bills offense. I think he's going to be absolutely stellar for many years to come in the Joe Brady offense. Next one we got is Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, CO2, my guy. You guys know CO2 is my dude, and I mean, I got a friendly bet with a buddy of mine saying who's going to have the better career. We're going to have to still wait for, at least another, 10 years before this gets panned out. But they're both so damn good, and I'm a big fan of both Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. CO2 was my dude coming out of Ohio State over Garrett Wilson, but I always had the respect for both their games. Wide receiver 31 for Garrett Wilson, and that's only based on the fact he had nobody throwing him the football, y'all. Now Aaron Rodgers does come back, and we know that Garrett Wilson is a guy that can take over any contest, and he will be force-fed and peppered targets from an Aaron Rodgers. There is no question. We talk about Chris Olave, same cast of characters, basically coming back into the fold. Rashid Shaheed, couple others, A.T. Perry. I mean, we'll see how they do operate in this offense, but we see wide receiver 19 with a Derek Carr who wasn't necessarily on the top end, upper echelons of quarterbacks this past year. Hopefully it does improve this year for both these gentlemen. When we're talking about 2024, you got to believe Garrett Wilson is going to have the better season, but we got to have the conversation of what happens after Aaron Rodgers. Who are they going to bring in? Right now, they don't have a backup plan. Traded Zach Wilson away. They obviously knew he wasn't the, franchise passer for years to come down the road, so they're going to eventually have a quarterback growing pains again. What will happen to Garrett Wilson? Will it be, again, wide receiver 25 and lower, or will he continue to move forward if they do luck out and get another quarterback? Where Chris Olave is proving at least he can play with a guy like Derek Carr, who isn't, we don't want to call him mediocre, but I mean, he's above average quarterback in the NFL, and at least wide receiver 19 to wide receiver 12 is kind of where we're going with a Chris Olave. Garrett Wilson right now almost 1,000 points more on the trade value, and that is recency bias because it is got Aaron Rodgers effect in it. Both age 23 at this point, and both will have, issues. Who's going to be the quarterback in New Orleans when a Derek Carr does leave and they're tired of his situation? Contract for Derek Carr definitely keeps him there for at least the next little while, but I'm keeping both these gentlemen right now. It's not typical that I say keep two players, but I mean the youthful talent that these guys both are, both alpha type wide receivers, and should be, beneficial for your fantasy club, your dynasty club for many years to come. Scary Terry McLaurin versus a Jaylen Waddle time. It's an interesting one because I'm a huge fan of both these gentlemen right now. Jaylen Waddle is coming off a regrettable season last year where Terry McLaurin was, based on circumstance, it just didn't work out with a Sam Howell. Sam was moving the ball around to all of his wide receivers. Terry could not gain traction and be that top alpha wide receiver that we definitely know he is. Wide receiver 32 for Terry, wide receiver 34 for Jaylen Waddle. Waddle dealt with some injuries this past year as well, and they were force-feeding a Tyreek Hill. Now with the addition of OBJ, does cloud the room just a little bit. More additions, like I said, Malik Washington and then Taj Washington added to the Miami room as well. So you got a lot of mouths to feed. They want to be more, a lot more depth, I guess we could say, for Miami, where it is now different, where we do got a Jaden Daniels in Washington with the commies. So, I mean, this is a good situation. No more Curtis Samuel. It is going to be Terry and Jahan Dotson this year, likely catching passes from the young rookie hotshot, and I think it's going to bode very well. 163 points last year. Not a great season for Terry McLaurin. His value definitely plummeted on the calculators at 22.82 at this point. Not good, man. Where Jaylen Waddle still very high value because the potential for a Tyreek Hill to retire when his contract is done, like he said, there is potential there as well. Who's going to be the wide receiver one in Miami? Likely going to be a Jaylen Waddle. So, I mean, this is the situation we're in. How do you appropriately evaluate these guys? Age 3 years apart as well. Waddle's 25, where Terry is 28 years old. I just think right now you got to trade a Terry McLaurin. Try to get everything you can get back. You're likely going to have to package some players in this as well to get the top-end value back and keep a Jaylen Waddle, because, I mean, the future looks absolutely bright for this young speedster, and I've always been a Waddle guy, so, I mean, I'm telling you, even though I do like myself some Terry McLaurin, it's just going to be tough sledding. He might have a very good next 2 years in Washington with Jaden Daniels, but I think you got to trade Terry at this point. I don't hate him in redraft this year, but I'm telling you, for the long run, I think you got to trade Terry and keep a Waddle time for sure, man. Tight end time, Dalton Kade or a Trey McBride. This is very interesting. Two of the young, youthful tight end superstar potential aspects coming into this league. We're going to see a lot of fireworks coming from these guys, where the Buffalo Bills did do, like I said, transition in the receiving game. No more Stephon Diggs, no more Gabe Davis. Now you got a Keon Coleman, you got Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir and company. You are going to have to see a force feeding to a Dalton Kincaid, a.k.a. Travis Kelce style. You got to think the Buffalo Bills are kind of going to, replicate something like the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, how they operate in that offense. Joe Brady was, trying to feed Dalton Kincaid as the season wore on, and he did look good in that process. Tight end 12 for Kincaid, or tight end 9 for a Trey McBride was the elixir, but now they added guys like a Marvin Harrison Jr., and I mean, Trey was force-fed. We know this. Kyler Murray came back and absolutely force-fed a Trey McBride with the lack of wide receiver talent on this roster in Arizona. Now you got yourself an alpha in a Marvin Harrison Jr. Trey McBride will see open opportunities as coverage will go to a Marvin Harrison's side, no question. But I'm telling you, 141 points definitely uplifted his stat line because of the lack of wide receivers on this team. Kade right now, which is surprising to me because everybody is bullish on a McBride. He's almost got 300 points more in trade value than a Kade. But at this point, you got to keep both these gentlemen because they are too young to trade. Both 24 years of age, both on clubs that look to be, willing to be feeding targets to the tight end spot. And I'm all for it. Dalton Kincaid is going to be an absolute nightmare to cover with Josh Allen. And if Kyler Murray can absolutely support, we've seen him support wide receivers and tight ends in the past. He's going to be able to do that with a Marvin Harrison Jr. and a Trey McBride as the 1-2 punch in the pass game. So I do like both of them. Keep both of them unless they give you a massive trade opportunity. I'm keeping both those tight ends. Last one on my board is Kyle Pitts and TJ Hockenson for the tight ends. Okay, 23 years of age for Kyle Pitts. He's still a baby in NFL terms, man. I don't know, okay, everybody's still like, oh, man, I'm out. I'm not doing the Kyle Pitts thing anymore. You got to see what they're working with. They were working with nothing at the quarterback spot. Now they got themselves a Kirk Cousins, and they drafted themselves Michael Penix Jr. So, the future does look bright in Atlanta. They got the young, talented pieces around him. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts can absolutely start to begin to ascend in this offense with a true quarterback that can get him the football. I am not worried about Kyle Pitts whatsoever, and I'm absolutely more excited than I think I have been since he came into the NFL this year. Tight end 14 last year, even with the horrific quarterback play that we did see, 110 points, where we do see TJ Hockenson as, being, relegated as one of the best tight ends in this league. And it is true. It's factual information, but no more Kirk Cousins. Now you're going with J.J. McCarthy. You still got J.J. You still got Jordan Addison, my guy. And okay, tight end 4 last year, even with the ACL injury that he did go down late. This year might be a wash, man. I don't know when TJ is going to get back on the field. Are they going to plan to rush him back? They're going to see what J.J. McCarthy does on the field, I think, before they're going to rush him back. It's quite the situation for a TJ Hockenson, and the value on this trend right now, it's only under 100 points value favoring a Kyle Pitts, which was absolutely surprising to me. But I'm kind of in that same category, I should say, of suggesting that Kyle Pitts should be more value than TJ Hockenson at this point, because when he comes back from his ACL, he's going to be in the 27-28 range, where Kyle Pitts only going in 24-25 with a better offensive situation at this point at quarterback. So I do like it quite a bit. Even though 171 points last year from Hawk was good, I'm keeping myself Kyle Pitts, and I'm trading TJ Hockenson. Yes, you're going to struggle to find a good value trade for a Hawk coming off the ACL injury, but I think that this is the proper situation, especially in Dynasty formats. You got to keep yourself a Kyle Pitts because this future does definitely look bright for these gentlemen. But there you have it. That is some keeper trade for Dynasty. As the Dynasty drafts are kicking off for rookies, I'm in a bunch of Dynasty startups as we speak right now. So understanding these values definitely got my brain moving for this one. So hopefully you guys get some values on these players in that respect as well. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, who you keeping, who you trading, what values do you see on these players? Throw it in the comments. We can definitely talk it out, but we'll see you next time. I am out.